So we will now go after incidence. So we plotted prevalence. How are we going to do incidence? Can we do incidence as a population statistic associated with the population? Yes or no? Could we express incidence here? Is incidence something we can compute at any one time? Given the current state of the model, we can just compute what the incidence is. If we had information on who's sick and who's not sick right now, could we compute, and that's all we had information on, could we compute what the weekly incidence is? We have to, it's actually a flow statistic. It's actually, we need to know when did these people get ill, right? Over what period of time. So we can't compute it just based on the current state of the population cross-sectionally. We need to compute it over time. So I am going to show you how you undertake that, okay? So, ladies and gentlemen, I would like you to do the following. I would like you to put in place a mechanism for counting this. We're going to put in place 3 interlinked components, okay? To wit, we are going to add a variable here to main. Thank you. To main. Soon enough, later we'll add a variable to person. Add a variable to main, and this variable will be called running count of infections for week. Are we okay with that? Running count, ladies and gentlemen, of the infections for the week. Okay? And ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be an integer variable. It's a count. Okay? Oh, should I go post my model, Mitchell?
Yeah, please.
Okay. Can do. Okay. So let me just so you can do that. I'm just going to post this, cut this, and post it, and then I'm going to put it back in here. So Winchell,
yes.
I'm about to paste it here. Okay, or about to post it, not to paste it. I already did paste it. Okay, here we go. Okay. 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 So, ladies and gentlemen, we have this running count. Next, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to do the following. Okay, we're going to go to person. And in person, when someone gets in, so you could think of that running count. That's like keeping track of how many people have gotten infected on a sheet of paper. Okay? And each time someone gets infected, we need to record that fact by incrementing that count. Where will we increase that count? Where do they get infected here? Good. Entering the infective state will be one way to do it. What would be another place to do it we could alternatively do?
Susceptible?
Yeah, we could do it based on this transition. You'll notice transitions have actions too. So we could do it based on transition. Often we have multiple transitions coming into a given state that signify infection. Maybe one via one route, sexual versus IDU transmission of HIV. Or maybe it's force infection versus exposure, natural exposure. In any case, often we find ourselves doing it in the entry action to the state. So the entry action to this infective state, what are we going to do there? What are we going to do? If this is a running count, we're going to add 1 to it. And ladies and gentlemen, it turns out in Java, we can write adding 1 in several ways. Winchell knows where we're going with this. One way we can write it, and this is in the entry action to infective, one way we can write it is, where does that variable live? It lives in main. Main.running count of the infections per week. We could write it out longhand like this. We could write it out longhand like this. But ladies and gentlemen, if we do that, it's a bit wordy. And sometimes looking at it, we have to kind of read this. Is it the same as this guy? It's a little bit distracting. After all, the intention is very simple. We just want to increment it. We just want to make it bigger than 1. Another way we could write this to just say we want to increment it by 1. We want to make it 1 bigger than its current value is like this in Java. Plus equals 1. That just means whatever's in here, just make it 1 bigger than it already is. But there's an even sweeter way for the case that we increment it by 1, and that is we do plus plus.
Now,
Yes.
what is the difference? Because when we had that internal rate, it was messing with the recalculation of some things the other day when we had an so
Correct.
would this
It won't be a problem.
internal thing won't be a problem with this?
It's an internal. We're not leaving the state, so we won't re-enter the state. The reason we had that issue the other day, it's a great question, is because we actually, a transition came out and came back
Okay,
in.
so it knows the difference whether you
It
put it
totally
inside
knows the
or
difference.
inside.
They're like night and day.
Okay.
One that's internal doesn't leave the state and come back in. One that's external does.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is what I put. Now, you can phrase it as you see fit, but you will see this enough if you do work with any logic that it's good to know what it is. What this is, what this is saying is, it basically is just saying increase this by 1. That's all that says. It only it's going to apply to an integer here. Increase it by 1. If it's 0, make it 1. If it's 1, make it 2. If it's 2, make it 3. Okay? Increase by 1. Are we okay with that? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's build, make sure it's okay. Is it a happy camper? Okay. Next, let's go to main, and there's one final thing we have to do. What has to happen at the end of the week?
Empty the variable.
Empty the variable, ladies and gentlemen. And hopefully not forget about it. Report it. Report it or save it away, whatever, okay? So, ladies and gentlemen, to that end, we are going to put in place something that's going to take us through parameter variation experiment as well. We're going to put in place something from the analysis palette, and it's called a data set. And this is going to be called weekly incident case counts. Okay? Weekly incident case counts. And ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have an event triggered to update those. And that event will be record weekly incident case count event. We should probably call it event. Okay? Event. Maybe it should be called weekly reporting event. Maybe that would be better. Probably weekly recording event. I kind of like that. Weekly recording event. Weekly recording reporting event. Weekly reporting event. So it occurs once a week, and we report weekly quantities there. Okay? I'm sorry for the trouble. Okay. Weekly reporting event. And what's going to have to happen there? Well, first of all, what sort of event is it? Is it a rate event, a timeout, or a transition? Timeout. And what sort of mode is it? Does it occur once? Is it cyclic? It's cyclic. And it needs to go off how often? Indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, indeed. Once a week. Okay? Once a week. Okay. Great. Now, what's going to happen here is going to involve 2 stages. First, I want to report this quantity. Let me show you 2 ways to report it. One way is I'm going to add it to this data set here, this weekly incident case count. Okay? Now, To make sure I'm doing this right, I'd actually like to look at this data set. And I just want to make sure, ladies and gentlemen, it has two things checked. First, time should be used as the horizontal axis value. So if I add a value, it will be automatically tagged by the time. And secondly, it should not update data automatically. Finally, I want it to keep up to 1,000 latest samples. Okay? 1,000 latest samples. 1,000 incident cases of weekly data. Ladies and gentlemen, I did three things. I double checked this. Time is at the horizontal value. It should not be updated automatically. This is for the data set. And it should keep up to 1,000 latest samples. Are we okay with that? Ladies and gentlemen, let's go back to this event. And let us, at the event, do weekly incident case counts dot add. And actually, we just, you notice when we do this, see, it says add, and we can add either two things or one, either X and Y value or just one. We're going to just add the Y value because it's going to timestamp it automatically with the X. And this is going to be this current running total. So we've totaled it up all through the week, and now we're going to report it. Running count of infections for week. Okay? And then we're going to print it out so that we can see it. This is one of the most useful things you can know about any logic. You can print things out to see them. And I'm going to do it right now. Trace ln. And I'm going to say time. Leave a space. It's going to print time out, and then it will be followed by, plus means kind of concatenate or append these strings, the current time. Then I'm going to follow that by a colon. These are double quotes, ladies and gentlemen, double quotes. TAs, watch for mistakes here. So double quotes. Incident cases, and I'll do space and then plus running count of infections per week. And then finally, I'm going to zero it out. And I'll be pasting this up on the big screen in just a moment. Okay? You don't have to get this trace ln thing exactly, all the details be exactly the same as mine. The point is it's going to print out the time and the value of the week of this. Okay? So here we go. So this is a trace ln, and this is all in one line. I had it. So these are double quotes. And basically it's going to print this, followed by the time, the current time, followed by colon incident cases, and followed by this. And really I should make it incident cases colon. Oh, it would be sweeter to do it. Oh man, I should do it this other way. Okay, fine. We'll leave it like that. We should do a tab separate, and then we could paste it into Excel, but okay, fine. Okay. And then we set, why are we setting this to 0? Yeah, it's a new weekly. We cross off all the things. We have a blank sheet, and we're ready to start counting the next week. We've reported the past week. We're starting the new with the fresh week. Are we okay?
Just let us make sure.
Yeah. No, we'll do the reset soon enough. The reset will be used when you're filling up a when you're filling up like a data set that needs to be entirely newly populated for this new week, or if you are like for a histogram, you need the data set to be wiped away from last week and populate it for this week. In this case, the whole purpose of this data set here is to store up the data from all the subsequent weeks. So we don't want to clear it out. Yeah. Okay, are people okay with this? Okay. Do you want this up a little bit longer? Who would like it? Try building. Ladies and gentlemen, try running. If you've got it going, then run it while the going's good. Okay? Try running it. Meanwhile, I'll post these up here. Why are we putting semicolons after these things? Because they're commands. We're saying, do this, add it to this, print this out, set this value to this. We're not just giving values. We're actually saying, do these things. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you'll notice while this is running, okay, build TAs, stand poised for action.
But did we connect the that so we actually see it on the graph?
No, we haven't done it on a graph yet, but it is printing things out, so we should be able to see those. If you go do View, Console, you should be able to see things being printed out here. Do you see that? Do you see these things being printed out, ladies and gentlemen? They should be being printed out on your graph. Yeah, you may have to do View, Console. Here. Do you see that? Ladies and gentlemen, View, Console. You don't see it?
Got it, but I'm just times 0, incident cases 0. So
You didn't run it long again, probably.
Is it still?
it's running.
So you might speed it up. What time is it?
Oh, I'm at like 1200, so.
Okay, yeah, no, so probably that event, Alan, check if the event is set to go off cyclically every 1 week.
That's probably right.
Okay, so are you folks seeing this? Okay, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like you to now go up and let's go drag in what we should have done, what I should have done is further shown you while this was running, ladies and gentlemen, while this was running, what you further should have seen is this data set being populated like this. Do you see that? Now, I could graph this over time, which is a weekly data set, but I could also, by clicking on this, I right-click on it and copy, and I can copy it to Excel, for example. Okay? I could copy it in here to Excel. Now, you notice it only saves up 1,000. Why is that? That's what I asked. That's right. 1,000 of them, because that's all I asked it to save. I could have asked it to save longer. But here we have weekly incident case counts, okay? Ladies and gentlemen, this data set is storing this up. This data set will be really valuable to us in a couple of ways. But first, let's go tap one of the ways before we explore some additional ways. So let's go back to main, and let's add another time plot, ladies and gentlemen. So add a time plot to main. And this will be the incident case count to show epi curves. Okay? We're going to be showing new cases of infection over time. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, if we want, we can normalize them by the population at risk to get incident rate. Okay, so this plot will be called incident case count plot. This new plot. Are we okay with that? And ladies and gentlemen, the data here will be, we're going to do plus. So for this incident case count plot, we're going to do for data plus, and we're going to select data set. And we're going to say incident case count, and guess what we're going to tell it for the data set to use? Yeah, weekly incident case count. And really, I should have named that weekly incident case count data set. Weekly incident case counts. I should have called it data set, I tell you. Should have called it. And then I could tell from the name what it is. But I lapsed, and I'm not going to cause confusion by changing that right now. Weekly incident case counts. Well, you could tell me. Suppose I did want to change that. Suppose I want to change its name, but I didn't want to break all the things that depend on it. How could I change it without breaking those things? Does anyone remember?
Go find it.
Well, okay, yeah, I could go find it and try to find those, but there's a better way. I could actually say data set, and as soon as I start typing, it says press Control-Enter to perform refactoring. And what it's telling me is that actually it will do the renaming for me. So if I type in data set there and I press Control-Enter, it's going to actually do the finding for me. It's going to show me each place it's used. I'm just going to say, okay, yeah, that one can be changed. And now it's been updated, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? And so now everything should be hunky-dory. At least Ron knows what that means. Sure. All I did is I went and I typed this, and I typed data set, and then I showed how when I do something like this, while I'm typing, it tells me Control-Enter to perform refactoring. In other words, replace name occurrence. Okay. And when I do that, it will let me say OK, and it will go through and replace each of them. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, now we have a graph that depends on this. Let's set this graph to display, sure, up to 100 latest samples. And the time window should be, ladies and gentlemen, 100 weeks, let's say. 100 weeks. Okay? So let's run this thing. Are we ready to run it? Are we ready? Yeah, that lacks conviction. Yeah?
What do you call this one again?
Incident case count plot.
Are you running the main population or the large population?
Large population. Okay, who would like to run it?
Just the, like, this, yeah.
Who would like me to show something?
I just wondering, time window 100 weeks, where do I put that?
Time window 100 weeks is,
Yours is under scale, but mine's not.
it's not under scale.
So this is a do not update automatically?
Yeah, I just left that by default. It says update data automatically.
So it's okay that way?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought that's what we made.
Okay, we'll just need about 30 seconds here.
Sorry.
So if you built your model with a plot instead of a time plot, it won't give you that option?
Yeah, this should be a time plot, not a plot.
That makes sense.
But that's
A time plot, we're going to use the plot later. That's a scatter plot.
Okay, are we,
Uh-huh.
you've got it recurrence in days, not weeks?
Sorry? It's going off every week?
No, but it says the recurrence time on the plot
Is recurrence time, yeah, it should really, thank you. That should be every week. 1 week. Every 1 week it should update.
And the data we're putting in is
Where was that update time? Was it under?
Sorry? This update is under data update of the plot.
Data update, okay.
Yeah, it should update every 1 week. Okay? I'm actually not sure you need to say update data automatically. I think let me try it with do not update data automatically. It may automatically update it at the because it's being added to there. I'm not actually sure, based on some memories that it requires that. Let me just double check that. Yeah, it does update it automatically, but without that. So, ladies and gentlemen, for that plot of incidents, you can say do not update automatically, and it will be a happy. So do not update automatically. It will be a happy camper. Okay.
Should the time units be weeks
For which?
For the various plots.
Well,
Time units.
Yeah, I'd make them weeks. Yeah, that's a good question. I mumble. I guess I made them days, but I didn't change that at all. The model time units. I mean
Just left it at that. Though.
So what place are you referring to? Like where is
Any
it?
of the graphs.
Oh, time axis format. Yeah, just leave it as model. I didn't change any of those.
Okay, fair enough. Then.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen. So here are epi curves. Here's incident case counts. Okay.
That was their income.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen.
Are you doing yours randomly? Mine's not.
Okay, so here are incident case counts, and here are the prevalence rates associated with this. Okay. Great. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. Now we could examine, if we were interested in exploring the dynamics here, we could examine some pretty interesting things. I will just suggest that you take here, ladies and gentlemen, the large population, that you copy it, that you paste it in, and that you consider creating large population and say long immunity, okay? And we're going to make immunity much longer, okay? Instead of being 45 days, we're going to have it be 3 times that, 135 days. Okay? So this is just long immunity. We've gone from short immunity to long immunity. And there's a question of what the impact on the infection will be of that sort of prolonged immunity. And there, as you can see, the infection dies out entirely.
What did you set it to?
I set it to 135 for long immunity. Let's run an alternative scenario where it's somewhere in between. Okay? So that's 3 times the normal one. Let's set it to 2 times. So I'm going to copy and I'm going to paste it. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to do medium immunity. Medium immunity. And this one's going to be duration of immunity of 90 days. Okay? 90 days. So here we're going to have somewhere in between the long immunity and the short immunity. Okay? And we're going to see the implications. Anyone want to hazard a guess what will happen? Okay, so it does remain present. It doesn't die out entirely, but it also has a more sporadic sort of character. It has these peaks. It tends to exist at somewhat lower levels, and it does have some fluctuations associated with it that are pronounced. Okay, and I would venture if you run it long enough, at some point it might even by chance die out, but here it's kind of circulating. It died out. It's sloshing around. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. Next, Dr. Dian, was there anything from your?
I think it's a question.
Yeah.
So what you're running
Yeah.
is a single realization of a stochastic phenomenon.
Yes, but we're going towards multiple realizations.
And then you save on the same graph.
Yeah, we're gonna be showing that epi curve and see what that looks like for the
In theory,
Yeah.
the deterministic model.
Yeah.
When they say they approximate.
Right.
The I
Mean field, they,
mean field, but
yeah.
mean field is means if you repeat your experiment.
Right.
10,000
Many, many times, right.
Yeah.
So that's what we're going to see, what it looks like. Okay? Okay, so ladies and gentlemen,
Oh, so one more question.
yes.
Maybe can you post that with the latest?
Yeah, I'll post it right now. Thank you very much for the reminder. Really valuable. Okay, so so here I'll also stop this.